Case 1. Trevor Jacob, California. The crash that was planned. Trevor Jacob, former Olympic snowboarder. Millions of views. Real credibility. In 2021, he boarded a small plane alone, flew over California, cut the engine himself, and jumped it out with a parachute while the camera was already rolling. The plane went down. The video went viral within hours. The plan was simple in theory. Fake an engine failure, film the crash, document the hike back to civilization. A survival story no one had pulled off before. The video went viral, but federal investigators watched it frame by frame, and the inconsistencies were glaring. No trained pilot abandons an aircraft that calmly. No engine fails at the exact moment the camera is already framed to capture it. When the NTSB went looking for the wreckage, Jacob had gotten there first. He had physically collected and destroyed the fuselage obstructing the federal investigation. In 2023, he pleaded guilty to one felony, count of obstruction, sentenced 6 months in federal prison, 6 months for views. Case 2. Stokes Twins, Orange County, the robbery that almost killed an innocent man. 2019, Alan and Alex Stokes are twins, YouTubers with millions of subscribers, and they had an idea that looked great on paper. Dress up as bank robbers, sprint out of a building with black duffel bags, and try to get into an Uber as if they were fleeing the scene. Spoiler, it wasn't great. An Uber driver saw two men in ski masks running toward his car. He refused the ride and called 911. Bystanders did the same. Police arrived with weapons drawn, not on the twins, but on the driver, the innocent man sitting in his car doing nothing. Here's the part that sticks. A man who had absolutely nothing to do with any of this had guns pointed at him because of a YouTube prank. The Stokes twins were charged with false imprisonment and filing a false emergency report. They pleaded guilty to misdemeanors. Result: 160 hours of community service, 1 year of probation and restitution. But the Uber driver, he never signed up for any of it. Case 3. Daddy 05, Maryland. When the victims are your own kids. This one is the heaviest case on this list. I want to be upfront about that before we go in. Michael and Heather Martin ran a family prank channel called Daddy 05. The channel grew, the views climbed, and the pranks kept escalating. But what was in those videos wasn't pranking. It was children being placed in manufactured panic scenarios, toys being destroyed in front of them, screaming, situations engineered to produce the maximum emotional reaction possible, from real children who couldn't consent, who didn't understand what was scripted and what was their actual life. The audience noticed before the authorities did. The online pressure was intense enough to trigger a formal child abuse investigation. The outcome: Michael and Heather Martin lost custody of 2 of their children and received 5 years of probation for child neglect. The channel was terminated. 2 kids removed from home because of a YouTube channel. Most of these creators were probably just thinking about making a viral video, getting more views, getting people to talk about them. But at some point, the situation stopped being content and starts becoming real life. Case 4. Tanner Cook, Virginia. The prank that ended with a gunshot. Tanner Cook from the channel Classified Goons had a specific content style, approaching strangers in public spaces with loud noises, invasive questions, and deliberately disruptive behavior, irritating by design. In 2023, in a mall food court, he approached Alan Colley, a delivery driver who was just doing his job. Colley asked him to stop. Cook didn't stop. Colley shot him. Cook survived. Colley went to trial and was acquitted on grounds of self-defense. Let that sit for a second. A judge and jury reviewed the footage, filmed by Cook himself, and concluded that the target of the prank had the legal right to shoot. It's just a prank. Wasn't a compelling argument in the court. Case 5. Jay Swingler, Birmingham. The head in the microwave. In 2017, Jay Swingler from the British channel TGF Bro decided to put his head inside a microwave oven and fill the gas with polyfilla, a construction filler that hardens fast. He put a plastic bag over his head. He inserted a breathing tube and he waited for the filler to set. It set faster than expected. Swingler was stuck. The breathing tube started to give out. His friends tried everything and couldn't free him. 5 firefighters spent an hour and a half dismantling the microwave piece by piece to get his head out. The West Midlands Fire Service issued a public statement, not about the content, but about the irresponsibility of wasting emergency resources that could have been responding to an actual life-threatening situation, while they were taking apart a kitchen appliance around a YouTuber's head. Case 6. Reset, Barcelona. The cookie that carried a criminal conviction. Kanghua Ren, known as Reset, was a Spanish YouTuber who in 2006 2017 filmed a prank targeting a homeless man in Barcelona. He swapped the cream in Oreo cookies with toothpaste and handed them to the man filming his reaction. The man got sick, reset, left. The camera captured everything. The public reaction was immediate and brutal, but what followed was more serious. Criminal investigation, conviction, 15 months in prison, a 20,000 euros fine, and a 5-year suspension of his channel. Spain established a clear precedent. Humiliating a vulnerable person to generate content is a crime. Subscriber count doesn't factor into it. Case 7. Mizzi, London. Walking into strangers' homes as content. Bakare Bronzeogaro, known as Mizzi, became notorious in the UK in 2023 for a series of filmed actions that included entering strangers' homes without permission, stealing dogs off the streets, and harassing people in public. He was arrested multiple times. A court issued an order prohibiting Mizzi from filming people without consent and for posting that type of content online. He violated the order. Sentence: 18 weeks in prison. The Mizzi case represented something new. The British judiciary signaling that antisocial content isn't entertainment. It's criminal behavior documented by the perpetrator themselves. If you enjoyed the video, show a little love, like and subscribe. Case 8, King Sid, Florida, calling 911 as a joke. Jason Sid, known as King Sid, called 911 in 2022 to report that he had coke car. Officers responded with the seriousness the report demanded. When they arrived, he held up a bottle of Coca-Cola and pointed the camera at them. He was arrested for measure of 911, a third-degree felony in Florida. False emergency calls kill people, not directly, but because every officer, firefighter, or paramedic diverted by a prank is a resource that wasn't available for someone who actually needed it. The legal system treats this with proportionate seriousness. Case 9, Ross Creations, Florida, a track record that speaks for itself. Charles Ross, known as Ross Creations, has more than 6 arrests across his career. Charges include battery, impersonating a law enforcement officer, and most recently, an animal cruelty investigation, after a video involving an opossum. What his case illustrates isn't one bad decision on one bad day. It's a pattern, a deliberate escalation where every boundary crossed needs to be replaced with a more extreme one to keep the audience engaged. And for a while, the audience kept watching until the legal system stopped looking away. Case 10, Brian Arnett, California, the company that sued. Brian Arnett filmed an Easter prank inside an In-N-Out burger restaurant in 2024. The specifics of the content were described as highly inappropriate and disruptive. In-N-Out didn't issue a statement, didn't ask for an apology, didn't ignore it. They sued. Permanent ban from all locations and a civil lawsuit for damage. The case and the sign-off. Private business are increasingly unwilling to accept it was just a joke as an explanation. They have legal teams and they have a financial stake in protecting their brand. 10 cases, 10 creators who bet that having a camera would be protection enough. It wasn't. Federal prison, loss of child custody, a gunshot, firefighters dismantling a microwave, a lawsuit from a major chain, criminal conviction in Spain. The pattern that runs through every single one of these cases is the same. The belief that being on camera creates a layer of fiction around real actions. That if the camera is rolling, the consequences are somehow different. They're not. A camera doesn't turn a crime into entertainment. In many of these cases, it was the primary evidence used in the prosecution. Whether you're a creator or just someone who watches, these cases exist as permanent documentation of what happens when the pursuit of attention replaces basic judgment. The internet has memory, and the criminal code doesn't have a dislike button. The disturbing part to me is that most of these people didn't start out as criminals. They were creators, chasing attention like everyone else on the internet. But then views become more important than common sense. The consequences become very real.